The Australian government has since the 1970s followed the standard soft feminist line, just like most other Western countries. The idea that women must become more autonomous, that women must compete against men, that the government must support women against men, and that the family holds women back. But as governments want to be re-elected, they didn't introduce all this at once. They brought in a little here and a little there, which is why, even though they are giving feminists most of what they wanted, they were continually criticised. It is only in the last 20 years that paid maternity leave was given any political life, and it was not until 2011 that it became law in Australia, being called the Paid Parental Leave Scheme. It provides 18 weeks paid leave for the primary carer for a new baby or an adopted baby. Traditionally, a mother with a newborn was financially supported by her husband. The family provided what was required. But its business now had to recruit women because the government insists that not to was discrimination. That meant they wanted women who they had trained and spent money on to return. This is the basis for paid maternity leave. But what it does is it encourages the government to replace the role of a husband. In fact, women don't even need a husband because whether they are married or single, the government will provide. Paid maternity leave is often advanced as a way of increasing the birth rate, but in the long run, it will do exactly the opposite because it's anti-family. Instead of building strong, stable families, it instead encourages women to put career before either family or children. That can only push the birth rate down. It will never increase it. Further, mothers who work are only part-time mothers. They work so that they can pay other women to raise their children. How much sense does that make? It is entirely uneconomical, and it gives further power to the government because the government, not the parent, gets to make the big decisions about how the child will be raised. Discipline, eating habits, education, none of this is decided by the parent, but by the childcare provider who must follow the instructions the government has given them. She is reduced from being a mother to being a broodmare whose only task is to breed. That's quite simply wrong and immoral. If paid maternity leave is paid for by the government, then people who have no knowledge of mother or child are paying for their upkeep. That's not about helping to protect the poor. It is instead paying people who have jobs to take time off. There's no such thing as infinity money, nor is there such a thing as infinity jobs. Money spent here cannot be spent elsewhere. If it is paid for by the employer, as some argue, then it encourages unemployment because it stops others from being employed. How can their wages be paid for when that money has already been spent on paid maternity leave? Paid maternity leave is also a direct attack on marriage and the family. Single women get paid just as married women do. Here the government simply encourages single motherhood instead of encouraging father and mother to marry. Marriage is good for all concerned. Children grow up with both parents and they are all in a better financial position than if they lived in separate households. But nothing about this policy is about securing a stable environment for either marriage or families.